In this part, first we will discuss about the need for expansionary fiscal policy, and then we will discuss how these policies can be implemented. So here we will also have some multiplier effects, and in this case there will be three types of multipliers. Number one is government expenditure multiplier. Number two, tax multiplier. And number three, balanced budget multiplier. So let's start with the first. We'll discuss why there is the need for expansionary fiscal policy. So just let us consider that this is Y, this is C. And now we will consider that Y equals to the aggregate demand has its three components. We will consider a closed economy, but closed economy with government intervention. So aggregate demand has three components. So Y equals to C, consumption plus private investment, which is autonomous in nature, plus G equals to government expenditure. So if we see, let us suppose that this is our 45-degree bisector, and this is the C plus this is the aggregate demand curve or aggregate expenditure curve. So if we see that, let us suppose that YOYF is the full employment level of output. But what is the equilibrium point? This is E. And this is equilibrium level of output. So full employment level of output is OYF. Actual level of output is OY1. So what can be done in this situation? As per Keynes, we can adopt expansionary fiscal policy. So expansionary fiscal policy can be taken here in the form of increased government expenditure. So if we see that C plus I plus G plus delta G, that means government is increasing its expenditure, and this increase in expenditure will have multiplier effect, and the economy will reach at the full employment level of equilibrium. This equilibrium EF will indicate full employment level of output. So here, one expansionary fiscal policy can take the economy from the unemployment to full employment scenario, or from the situation of unemployment to the situation of full employment. Now, so definitely we can see that this is the change in fiscal policy, this is the change in government expenditure, and this is the change in aggregate level of output. So there is also multiplier effect, and this multiplier effect will be similar to the government expenditure multiplier. So similar to the private investment multiplier. So let us start. The standard consumption function A plus by and 0 less than b less than 1, A is greater than 0. So Y equals to C plus I bar plus G. So we can write here Y equals to A plus by plus I bar plus G. So in this case only two things are variable, Y and G. So if we differentiate totally, we will get dy equals to, or we take all the dy components in one side. So by cross multiplication we can write dy by dg equals to 1 divided by 1 minus D. So this is the government expenditure multiplier. So we can write dy by dg equals to 1 divided by 1 minus MPC MPs. This is the same. So now we will consider two more multipliers. One is tax multiplier, another is the balanced budget multiplier. So before discussing the tax multiplier, we have to make a minor change in our consumption function. So now consumption function is given as now we are making a change in our consumption function. T is what? T is tax. And here for the first time we are considering the case of a lump sum tax. This T indicates the lump sum tax, and this Y minus T will be nothing but the disposable income in the economy. So in this case, higher the volume of tax, lower will be the disposable income of the person and his consumption will fall, and vice versa. So the consumption is not dependent upon income. Rather, instead of considering consumption as a function of income, we are considering here consumption is a function of disposable income and increasing function. So what we see, if this is the consumption function, Cy minus T, whenever T will fall, it will become Cy minus T1 when T1 is less than T. So if there is any decline in tax, the lump sum tax consumption will shift upward. Now, how the expansionary fiscal policy is implemented through taxation. So whenever government, in this case, if government reduces the lump sum tax, so if tax is reduced, so Y minus T will increase. So if Y minus T will increase, that means disposable income that implies the consumption will increase, and consumption increase, other things remaining constant. If consumption increases, that will increase the aggregate demand, and increase in aggregate demand means definitely increase in level of output and employment. So whenever we will take the tax multiplier, whenever we are going to calculate the tax multiplier, we must consider two things will be variable. Number one variable is Y and number two variable is T. Other things will remain constant. So Y equals to now A plus B into Y minus T plus I bar plus G. So if we differentiate both sides totally, we will get dy equals to B into dy minus B into dt 0, 0, or dy minus B into dy equals to minus B into dt, or so if we do cross multiplication, we will get dy by dt equals to minus b divided by 1 minus b. So here we cannot say unambiguously that this will be greater than, first of all remember that this is negative in nature. Why this is negative in nature? So far we have considered all the multipliers, those are positive in nature. Their direction is positive direction. But this is the first multiplier we are finding which is negative in direction. Why? The answer lies in the same thing, that tax is a leakage. Tax means income that is deducted from the hand of the consumers which they cannot spend for consumption or any other purpose. So taxation, this lump sum tax is a leakage. If there is a fall in lump sum tax, that will increase the disposable income in the hand of the consumers. So they can consume more. More consumption means more aggregate demand. Second thing, if we forget about the direction, just consider the magnitude of it. It can be greater than 0, can be greater than magnitude. Only the volume. This volume can be greater than 1, can be less than 1. But normally what we see, marginal propensity to consume is greater than marginal propensity to save. So this is nothing but the tax multiplier is the ratio of MPC and MPS. Normally we find that MPC is greater than MPS, so volume of the tax multiplier must be greater than 1. So what we can conclude from here, we can conclude that if the government reduces the tax, national income will increase. If the government increases the tax, national income will fall due to just because tax is some kind of leakage. Tax is not an injection. Second type of tax multiplier we can consider if we think a proportional tax, that your tax revenue will be given as small t into y. Small t means tax rate. A proportional tax, it may be considered people are being charged 10% of their income. So t will be 0.1 like that. So in this case, there will be minor change in the consumption function. So we can write the national income identity as y equals to a plus b into y minus ty plus I bar plus g. So now if we differentiate, there will be two variables, y and t. So dy equals to b into dy minus t dy minus y dt. So this is little bit complicated, that b into dy minus b into t into dy minus b into y into dt. So dy into minus, okay, I will do one more simplification, that b into dy 1 minus t minus by into dt. So similarly here dy minus b dy into 1 minus t equals to minus b dt, or equals to minus b dt, or we can write dy by dt equals to, sorry, it will be minus by dt minus by divided by 1 minus b into 1 minus t. So 1 minus t is less than 0. Sorry, 1 minus t is less than 1 and greater than 0. B is greater than 0, less than 1, and this b is greater than 0. So we can write here that dy by dt is also negative. So this is also, meaning is also simple. If tax rate declines, the consumers will have more disposable income, and if tax rate if tax rate declines, consumers will have more disposable income. That means more consumption and more aggregate demand. So higher level of output. Last part is the balanced budget multiplier. So here, before considering the multiplier, let's know what is the meaning of balanced budget. In case of balanced budget, what we do? The increase in government expenditure. So if we consider, in one hand, government expenditure is being increased, and on the other hand, government also increases the tax. So increase in government expenditure is financed by increase in taxation. So, and second thing, we have to remember that dg equals to dt. So now let's frame the equation. Y equals to a plus b into y minus t plus g plus I bar. So here are three things variable: y, t, g, and second condition is dy equals to dg. Sorry, dt equals to dg. Dy equals to b into dy minus b into dt plus dg. And here we have considered dt equals to dg. So in the next step we will replace dt by dg. So dy equals to b into dy minus b into dg plus dg. So dy minus b dy equals to dg minus b into dg dy into 1 minus b equals to dg into 1 minus b. So by cross multiplication, dy by dg equals to 1 minus b by 1 minus b, 1. So in simple Keynesian model, the value of balanced budget multiplier is 1. So this time we are not having the multiplication effect. Why? Because in one hand there is injection. In one hand there is injection through increased government expenditure. On the other hand, at the same time, there is leakage through taxation. So, somehow to some extent, the effect of increase in government expenditure is nullified to some extent, not completely. To some extent, it is nullified by the increase in taxation. That's why finally we get the volume of balanced budget multiplier equals to 1. So in this part, we have found two types of expansion, two types of aggregate demand management policies. Number one is expansionary fiscal, two types of expansionary fiscal policy as the part of aggregate demand management policy. So one type of policy is through increase in government expenditure to boost up aggregate demand directly, and another is decrease in tax. Whenever we increase the government expenditure, that directly affects the aggregate demand. And whenever if we increase the government expenditure, that directly affects the aggregate demand, and that's why its value is positive. Next, whenever we are considering the expansionary fiscal policy through decrease in taxation, it affects indirectly, because whenever there is decrease in taxation, first it will affect the disposable income. It will increase the disposable income in the hand of the consumers. So whenever there is increase in disposable income, that will boost up consumption, and finally it will boost up aggregate demand. So we will find that whenever there is a decline in tax rate, there is an increase in national income. So both are moving in the opposite direction. Tax rate falling, national income increasing. So the direction it will be there in opposite direction. That's why tax multiplier is negative. And third case, we consider the balanced budget multiplier, in which the increase in government expenditure will be financed by increase in taxation. So we will find that change in government expenditure is exactly equal to the change in taxation, the change in tax. So increase in government expenditure is exactly equal to increase in tax. That's why in this case what we will find? We will find that economic income will definitely increase, but the volume will not be, it will not have the multiplier effect. The multiplier value will be 1, not more than 1. So in this case, to some extent, the increase in government expenditure, the effect of increase in government expenditure is nullified by the effect of increase in taxation. That's why it becomes 1. So these are the multipliers in simple Keynesian model.